This is Dr. B Serious, here to inform you that we're offering The Body Never Lies, Class 2, October 26th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This class is going to explore how to use personal kinesiology to help you refine and define your decisions and bring out the best in you. Learn the science of asking and the language of liberation. You see, language can be your liberator or your lockdown. How you ask a question and how you feel and how you vibrate and the level of frequency that you are in or on has a lot to do with your outcomes. So what we're going to do is cut to the chase and give you the cheat codes on how to make the best choice for you. Personal kinesiology is the science of asking and receiving a definite yes or no to help you achieve your goals. It's time. Let's go. I'll see you there.
All right, all right. Oh, man. We are in the building tonight. We are in the digital building tonight. Family, make sure you hit that like button. It's getting ready to go down. It's going to be a legendary night. I talked about this night for a little while now. I told you I wanted to put it together, and my father put it together. So yeah, without further ado, let me introduce back to the platform. All of these brothers have been holding it down on this platform this year a lot. They've been doing their thing, so it's an honor to have them all on here together as we continue to celebrate this paradigm shift that we see happening right now. I want to welcome back BDell, Rod Hayes, and RFG, the chosen one. Welcome, y'all.
Peace. Sir, thanks for having me on.
Indeed, indeed. All right, so family, I'm hearing a little echo. All right, so this ain't gonna be an ordinary conversation. So you might hear some wild shit. Rod Hayes might say Joe Budden's a robot again. You might hear some real wild shit. So just be prepared because this ain't going to be your normal conversation. This is and that's good. That's a real good thing because truth, we've been lied to so much that truth will seem like a science fiction book. So let's get this thing started. I want to give a shout out to the name of the show was inspired. New Species was actually inspired Bobby Hemmett. I remember when I was younger, Bobby Hemmett used to talk about. I didn't even notice you had on the shirt. BDell. Yeah, damn. I didn't even know. I just noticed that. But Bobby Hemmett used to talk about all the alchemical process of what happened to us in America. There was a new species that was being born. There was a new people that was going to be birthed from that. All the mixing, all the everything that happened. It was like we're like this big alchemical experiment that happened. And you see what we've become, and shit, man, you're gonna see what we'll become in the next 500 years. So shout out to the soul of the brother Bobby Hemmett. And with that being said, let's get this thing started. How y'all doing, Rod, BDell, RFG? How y'all doing?
I'm doing great.
Doing great.
Indeed. Family, make sure I see we got about 1,500 people already. Make sure you hit that like button so you know the whole world could come join us tonight and participate in this conversation. All right, so let's get this thing started. Everything happening, the DNA upgrades, the ascension process, the solar flares, the just so many things happening, the eclipses that's going on. We feel it inside. People hearing their ears ringing. People are having abilities become active that they didn't have before. RFG did a video recently that got snatched, and I had to throw it on Patreon because it got snatched. Y'all remember that from 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about that. So this is like a part 2 to that. What I want to ask you is that, all right, so we study ancient history. Rod Hayes, I don't know if I heard Rod, I heard Billy talk about it. I don't know if BDell touched on it. I don't know if RFG touched on it, but there's characters in antiquity. Let's use characters, the Anunnaki characters. I don't know if it was Inky and Lil, whoever. They said some of these characters put a cap on our DNA, right? They said they put a cap. Say that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. So
They actually stripped back the telomeres to shorten the lifespan.
right.
Mhm.
And they did what's called a DNA graft to give us a worship gene, so that the guy reverence will be able to entrance us under a spell of hypnosis.
Right.
It'll be encoded in your DNA to respond in that manner.
So one of the reasons for the spell of hypnosis is that we have this spark of divinity within us. We have the spark of divine source, Big Mama. We got this spark within us that is more powerful than anything in the universe. So Bobby talked about, many people talked about the power of the imagination. There's something that people on the internet talk about that's called psychic surgery. Now, they say the brain can't distinguish between reality and imagination. So if we use this God power called our imagination, people say they have had psychic surgery performed on them by entities while they were asleep and woke up and was a complete different being. I want to talk to you about the ability. Like I said, this ain't a normal conversation. The ability for us to use psychic surgery, use our imagination. We go into theta mode before we go to sleep. And on us our DNA to reverse whatever spell was put on us in our DNA. Moving forward, us being a new being, a new species, a new people, is this something that y'all see that could be beneficial for us to reverse the curse, or reverse, as Rod Hayes says, the conjure?
Yes. Well, that worship gene was basically the vesicular monomind transporter 2 gene.
Yeah.
And that basically has a hardwire connection to where it gives you the propensity to believe in things outside of yourself. So you have two different forms of ether that's based on the creation of the mind, that is comprised of the cybersphere and the ethosphere.
Right.
And those two different realms have the ability to manipulate the neurotransmitters to where it's able to reconstruct back into its original form. So that's when you tap into, like, as far as like your higher abilities, is when you stuck in the theta state, because you're basically in between the realm of the quantum world and the simulation at the same time, when you study the holonomic brain theory. And that holonomic brain theory basically demonstrates that your neurotransmitters is tether connected to the quantum world in the simulation at the same time. So as I was telling people before, we have a neurological clock that basically puts an encryption over the mind, which is the suprachiasmatic nucleus that works in tandem with the cosmic clock. So all that works in conjunction as far as like putting a cap consciousness that is acclimated to the firmament and the cap and an encryption over the brain, basically. So once we tap into those energies, that's when we're able to tap into our true power that's connected to the etheric network and dark matter energy.
Rod, RFG, one of y'all want to touch on that?
Go ahead, RFG.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with what the brother BDell was saying. And I believe whatever took place on a cosmic level in 2012 was the greatest emission of light codes in this particular realm in the past 2,000 years. And I'm just grateful to be a part of it. I'm grateful to have received many of those light codes, and for me to have been on this journey to acquire the knowledge that I was able to acquire, and to be able to wake up as many people as possible. And I think a loophole around that particular gene is simply the hemoglobin in the DNA inside of not the DNA inside of the cell. There is a organelle called the hemoglobin, and we have what's called iron, the iron atom in our hemoglobin. So every time we breathe, we take in the oxygen atoms. The oxygen atoms steal electrons from the iron in our hemoglobin. And every time oxygen atoms steal electrons from our iron in our blood, we lose energy. We lose vital energy that's used to keep our cells functioning. So in the ancient days, before this planet was invaded, the original beings had carbon and the hemoglobin, and carbon is able to bond to oxygen, and it's able to carry oxygen throughout the body. When it releases oxygen, the oxygen doesn't steal an electron from the carbon atom. So we were able to breathe oxygen, but not lose electrons. So we were able to live for thousands of years, just like the trees, over 6,000 years ago.
Right.
You're right. You gotta also remember that the iron was replacing the magnesium in the transfer in the blood in order to cause biological entropy. So the biological entropy is the breakdown that the leaching of the electrons is doing. It's causing it to deteriorate. The iron begins to rust.
Okay.
And then the interaction in the cells make the pigmentations of the melanocytes a brown tint instead of a tint of shades of blue and green. Right?
I see.
When they did this in the laboratory, we didn't use so they crashed the fourth dimension into the third dimension in order to split your consciousness in two dimensions simultaneously. This was the great fear of CERN at the close of the age, because that's what created the infinity loop to put you in what's called perpetual reincarnation cycle.
Okay.
You're playing out the same story over and over on a different timeline every time you come back until you realize that you've been psychologically and spiritually trapped into a cycles within cycles matrix in order for the mind to lose track of itself internally and seek itself externally in the realm of opposites.
Yep.
So when they tell you we're in a simulation, they right, but we in a 3D manifestation, and the 3D manifestation is still tied to prime source. Right? The characteristics of the simulation is shown in the epigenetic programming. Everything is coming from outside of the body into the body. Your brain is not your mind, but your mind uses your brain to translate mental stuff into a understanding in the 3D world. So your brain is a supercomputer translating spiritual data into the 3D realm in order for you to understand what you're looking at.
Exactly.
So now you want to talk to yourself. That's why I seen Dr. B Serious at the beginning, and he was talking about the kinesthesia of the self. Right? It's been a long known in the self-help world that if you're making a bad decision, your body gets weak. If you're making good decisions, your body becomes strong. And that knowledge can allow you to ask yourself if you're making the best choice for yourself.
Now when you say, my bad for interrupting, but when you say good and bad, do you mean high vibrational versus low vibrational?
Exactly. Because those things that we consider bad and those things we consider good are only separated by the frequency they come in on. That's part of the reality, right? All death come in the frequency of death, but it got branches. So now all of the frequencies of death can be broke up into the gunshot victim, the stab victim, the accident victim, but they all got branches on the death tree. Natural causes, unnatural causes, right? You start narrowing down the branches because you have to be able to put the information in a digestible format. And the more people you can explain it to, then the more people you connect on a mental awareness level in order to control the great egregore. That's why they say knowledge is king.
Facts. Okay, so in this realm, one of the big things that people focus on, have always focused on, was manifesting things into this realm, bringing things into existence. Some people call it magic. Some people call it science. There have been many names. Some people call it alchemy. There have been many names for having something in your mind, and then it may be in my mind. I'll give you an example. I had the Gathering of the Masters in my mind one day, one year, and then next thing I know, boom, there's 2,000 people in a room, and I see BDell, and I see BDell there. You know what I mean? It's just all the master teachers there. But that shit was in my mind just a couple of years ago, just strictly in my mind. So what I want to ask you about, I remember I had a conversation with Brother Polite. I'm gonna bring him up because I got to use an example, so I want to bring him up. I had a conversation with him many years ago, and I'm like, "Yo, how you able to manifest so much, man?" And he told me, he said, and BDell recently said something that reminded me of what he told me. He said, "Yo, Rich, yeah, I use Platonic solids." He was like, "Yo," he was like, when depending on what I'm thinking, I use a different shape. I visualize a different shape depending on the emotion of what I'm thinking. And I forgot what he said. So, but he was like, if I want to get this, then I use this shape. If I want to get that, I use that shape. If I want to get that, I use that shape. And then he was like, yo, I just imagine, just like you send an email to somebody, I send an etheric email out there. And I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't expect all of that. Nigga told me he sent etheric emails. He uses different shapes depending on emotion. So in terms of the topic of bringing things into existence in this world, I mean, motherfuckers cut chickens, sacrifice babies. We have done everything that you could think of in humanity to bring things into this realm. They say the new magic is the mind magic. So let's talk about mind magic and Platonic solids. Tell me, how do you use, what's up with Platonic solids and manifestation based on what I just said?
Well, I'll take real quick. Well, when you're talking about the Platonic solids, the best way to encapsulate that thought process inside of a dodecahedron that is connected to the quintessential alchemical element, which is the fifth element, and you trap that energy inside that geometrical shape and you upload it into the neurological interface, and you stream that intelligence down because it has a tachyon energy, and tachyons travel faster than the speed of light because light travels at 186,000 miles per square feet. So when you stream that intelligence down, it basically materializes in physical form. So when Brother Polite was basically talking about that, he was basically talking about, like, you got the tetrahedron or sasahedron, you have the hexahedron, tetrahedron. You entrap all those energies inside of, the ether, gamma radiation. You entrap those energies inside of geometrical shapes. That is how you're able to manipulate the beta simulation of reality, and to manipulate the space-time continuum in order to reap the benefits of manifestations, goals, or anything that you're basically trying to do. Because, as I was telling Brother Rich before, you have your tunnel vision is connected to manifestation. That is your interstellar vortex portal in order to tap into that energy. So it's all based upon the mind magic.
Absolutely, absolutely. Every single physical object that we can look at in this universe, in this realm, at first was a thought, especially when we talk about buildings, ornaments, objects, inventions, everything that we look at in this society. At first, it was existing in the fourth dimensional realm. So, I believe BDell he's dead on with that assessment.
Yeah, because that's connected to the mental plane, which is called, I think that's called the abode of the Most High, I believe, when you go on the path of Masut, after you become a neophyte. But yeah, that's my take on that.
Absolutely.
Rod, you want to close that out, Rod?
Yeah. So BDell gave you what's called the mechanics of the operation. Right. What I'm about to tell you here is what you're building using those mechanics. You know that symbol that they call it looked like the star life. That's what it's called. It looked like the lotus flower.
The hexa.
Okay. Platonic solids, when encapsulated with a thought form, they each one of them have a place in there that you can only see when you look at it holographically. Now remember, the observer collapses the wave into a particle. And if the observer infuses the collapse with intention, the collapse is going to arrive at the destination of what you perceive fourth dimensional mind matrix. The fourth dimension mind matrix is drawing all of the information from what you put in. So spiritual people, once you understand what each one of the shapes means, the energy that they carry, and you use it according to its own frequency, you using it like a conjure tool, like witches use or magicians use magic wands. It becomes a tool that you don't need to use in the 3D world, because now you can use the understanding of the frequency of the Platonic solids to encapsulate it with the desire that match that frequency, and then you can psychically send it back to its position in the star of life, and it's going to project your path back to you in the mirror effect, as above, so below. 6/9 in the balance.
Very interesting.
It's all about perspective and angle. So he Brother Polite was giving you a science.
Right.
Brother Vidal just told you the mechanics of how the science works.
Yeah.
Right. And what I was just telling you is what they doing that y'all not being explained between the two. Right. So it's like reading tarot cards. The tarot cards is the training wheels for the psychic perception to be honed in. This is with anything you manifesting. If you don't make any effort, it just delays the result. And this is why they say if you take one step toward God, God take 2 steps towards you. Because you mirroring yourself in your manifestation, you harnessing your God frequency. By using the power of your mind and imagination fused together, right brain, left brain, abstract linear logic. You telling the universe, translate this into my reality when this wave collapses into this particle. And you arrive at your destination like you was riding on the escalator.
You are the universe experiencing itself.
Right.
No, facts. So let me ask you this. I want to know, moving forward. Now we're talking about a new species, a new being created. One thing, I was just talking to what's his name, Billy, yesterday, and we was talking about. I asked him about ancestral veneration within the Black community and how big it is, and us asking our ancestors for guidance. Now, let's say if we're a new species and we're getting ready to do something that hasn't been done before, or a lot of our ancestors that passed on aren't aware of. Do you think it would be just as beneficial moving forward in this new paradigm? The same way we practice ancestral veneration, should we practice, I guess you could call it future self veneration, where we ask our future selves for the same help, the same way we do our ancestors, because the future selves know exactly what we need so that they could incarnate into this realm and do the things that they already did, since time doesn't really exist. They know exactly what we need to do, so when they incarnate, they could fulfill their destiny. Should we practice future self veneration the same way we do ancestral? And I see Rod smiling. So Rod, why don't you start this, Rod? I see you smiling.
Look, Khalil Brown got a poem talking about the parent is the bow and the arrow is the child that the parent shoots into the future. Right? Why do you raise your child the way that you raise them? Are you raising them to make better choices than you did? Or are you raising them to make worse choices? Most
Yep.
parents that love their child is going to try to give them the understanding on how to make the best choices and to always choose the choice that's best.
Mm.
Right? That's you talking to your future self.
Mm.
Gotcha.
All your future incarnations, you programming them into your child because he's going to live it out and he going to take and refine it and he going to feed it further into the future more refined than it was when you sent them out.
Right.
Right. So when we talk about breaking generational curses and ancestral reverence and things of this nature, these is frequencies that our DNA is using this frequency from past ancestry.
Right.
If you take one person out your ancestry 10,000 years ago, you ain't here.
Mm.
You don't exist.
That's right.
Every single ancestor you had was necessary for you to be Brother Rich.
Mm.
That's facts. That's facts.
Take one of them out, you ain't Brother Rich no more. You don't. Instead of having a mind awakening podcast, you're gonna be a rap star and you're gonna be taking Tupac's spot
Mm.
because your frequency would be different,
Right.
so your life purpose would be different. And the way that you play it out is all of the accumulation of the ancestors that understand each one of the problems you face. You don't call on your plumber ancestor when you need an electrician ancestor to tell you how to fix these wires.
Mm.
But if you call on the plumber, you perfect the task because you download the correct frequency,
Mm. Mm.
right? And the same with the ancestral reverences, keeping a communication with your inner self, which is the ancestral realm that talks to all the way through the DNA.
Mm.
You communicating with all the ancestral frequencies in your DNA, and the more reverence you give them, you purify the energy. The energy is always purified through love, honor, and respect. But if you want your worst ancestors to come, you do the exact opposite, and they'll show up too.
Okay.
But no matter what frequency you're on, you're going to be tuned in to a series of ancestors that produced you.
Got you. BDell RFG.
Yeah. One thing you got to understand
Yeah.
is the delineation between the gematria body and the Zohar body.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the gematria body is basically tether connected to the simulation. So that means that the gematria body in itself is being manipulated by the neutrinos, and the neutrinos are basically particles of antimatter, or what you call Holy Ghost particles. And those Holy Ghost particles is tapped into your higher self, which is known as your Zohar body. Your Zohar body is connected to these colossal coronal mass ejections, and these coronal mass ejections are basically these forms of gamma radiation that's amalgamating with the carbon body. So that basically means that your ancestors is living through you in order for you to tap into your higher states of consciousness that put you on evolution as far as like you being at your higher stuff or whatever. So the same thing is as far as like what's taking place in the cosmos is bringing that energy here when it comes to that aspect of it. So that, you know,
Okay.
so that's why I was saying, like, as far as like, the gematria body is basically an encryption over the body that is basically being controlled by electronic devices and things of that nature. But we breaking out of that spell right now, which is what we
But
call
also, that also tie into the numbers in your life that become prominent importance for you to see where you're going.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because the gematria just translating to what the numbers you reading the binary code now.
Facts.
And now when you tell them what the gematria mean in translated form, you reading the streamers like them people sitting behind the keyboard on the matrix.
Mm.
So your perception is being fine-tuned in order for you to be able to explain to them what it is they're looking at.
Mm.
Okay. RG, did you add on to that? I stepped off a second. Or are you good? Or
Me personally, when I think of like calling on the ancestors and things of that nature, like I always
selves, ancestors versus moving in the future, future selves, like calling on our future selves. Yeah.
okay. I know there's a difference between our physical avatar and then who we really are, which is an accumulation of dark energy and ether energy consciousness. And when we call on specific ancestors, I believe we have to be very careful because we had ancestors that operated on a very high frequency. We had ancestors that operated on a very low frequency. So it's always very beneficial to do very diligent research on who is who down the line in your bloodline, and find out what everybody did throughout their life, what they did for their occupation, and call on your ancestors accordingly for what you need done.
That's part of shadow work too. In the shadow work, that's the energies that you're working with.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't correct the ancestry that come to you on a frequency, let's say it's alcoholism. You got an alcoholic uncle that want to live vicarious through you, so he want to influence you to rock his frequency by consuming mass amounts of alcohol. Then he can take control. But it's not really him; it's the frequency that's trying to be in control of the life. And when you block down the frequency, you activate the frequencies that's more to your liking to run interference on your behalf, called spiritual protection.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of shadow work.
So I asked a question. I asked this question. One person I asked this question to before. It was either Seven Beaumont or Billy Carson. I forget. And I'm gonna remix the question a little bit. But basically, we're in this era of spirituality where we're taught to be positive and say affirmations and say what you want out loud and repeat it as many times as you want. From experience in life, and I heard Seven talk about this the other day on his show also. From my experience, sometimes when I'm the loudest about my mantras or I'm the loudest about what I want, I don't get sabotaged from people in the outside world. It almost seems like something inside me sabotages things. So it seems like the louder I get, I done gave out all the intel. Now some motherfucker inside of me knows how to counter it and do what they got to do for, let's say you want to get a new car and you keep saying you want to get a new car, right? You're about to get you say it out loud. Then all of a sudden, the weirdest shit in the world happens so that you don't get this new car. But sometimes a person is quiet about it. He moves in silence and he gets the car like that. I want to ask you, is there something, and I heard Seven talked about frequencies wanting to stay alive. So let's say you have a frequency of misery or whatever that exists within you. That frequency wants to stay alive. So when you want to be happy, that frequency will rebel and something will pop up in your life out of nowhere. And that could be that frequency trying to stay alive. How do we communicate with these frequencies that may exist within us and let them know, hey, listen, I'm going to the next level. You ain't got to ruin shit. You ain't got to do no wild shit. You don't fuck shit up. But I am going to get to this next level. I'm going to save a little room for you to exist. But I'm going to get here. How do we do that? How do we just be positive, but to being realistic and saying, listen, this frequency is going to fight back if I try to do this. How can I communicate it and form a truce with it, like nations form truces with each other so that they can live in peace and harmony with each other?
Sometimes conquest is necessary.
Say that again?
Sometimes conquest is necessary.
Explain, Rod. Explain.
There's usually an example of sometimes two nations with opposing views can make a treaty of agreement. Sometimes they can't. And when that happens, it might be required from one of them to conquer the other one in order for them to even find a semblance of peace between the two. Conquest becomes necessary. When you're looking at the energies and you're doing the shadow work, the frequency that you exercise the most going to be the strongest. And so when that energy rebel, if you don't have sufficient practice on the new energy, the energy that you choose, the energy that you used to is going to come back up and interfere with your process. This is what you're talking about. If you're looking at everything from 3D matrix, and we believe that the 3D is the answer. But the answer comes in spiritually, translates mentally, and plays out physically. So when you face with those energies, that means that you haven't built up the energies required to meet your task because you haven't done enough due diligence to build that energy momentum up.
Right. Gotcha.
Interesting.
Well, based on my own observation, when it comes, I call it, keeping your cup full to where you're not leaking energy. So sometimes when you say certain things that you're gonna do, sometimes it doesn't like materialize in physical form. So sometimes it's just best to keep certain things to yourself in order to harness that energy, because it helps you tap into your telepathic abilities to where you're able to manipulate certain timelines and time dilation in order to make certain things manifest or whatever. Right. So like I said, I call it leaking energy. When I say I'm going to do something, I don't tell a lot of people. I just kind of keep it mental, and I just conserve the information, and then I just let it materialize.
Gotcha.
That's the point in ceremonial magic as well.
Yep, you can telekinetically block somebody's plans, somebody's potential manifestation. There were instances where people were surrounding somebody that was like in an emergency situation, and they were like critically injured, and they did like a seance, like over 100 people like did a seance over somebody who was like injured, and that person was healed within a matter of like a few minutes. And the ancients called that energy the power of the Ka, the Ka, and that proves that we have those metaphysical, those supernatural powers. Like everything that manifests itself in the physical has to start out mental. It has to start out in the fourth dimension. And just like BDell said, as far as like your plans, what you have going, you don't want to say that around too many people, because these days, you never know who's watching, you never know who's listening. At the end of the day, you never know somebody's thought process, what somebody's true intentions are. So a lot of times people say their plans out in public, and it gets telekinetically knocked down,
Right. Yeah, because non-corporeal demons can block manifestation frequencies.
Oh yeah.
Remember, the most common form of cursed magic in the world, the most common form is called ill wish. When you wishing that somebody tell you they're finna do something great, and you don't wish them well, you wish that they don't succeed. You projecting the energy, and the people around you, if they the ones that's projecting that energy, they can trigger your self-sabotage because you don't want that person to benefit from your prosperity. Controlling your energy. Right? And that's why I say when you do the magic circle, you are symbolically putting yourself in the position of creator. Right? And until you see your creation, the creation is being created. Or else you would have already seen it if it was past tense created. But while all these things are in the process of creation, you can't see them until they're created. It's process. And the energy that you put in the development of it, processing energetically, the faster you can cause the physical effect of bringing that into your reality that they call manifestation. It's the focusing of the energy, the control of the energy, and the understanding of the energy is required to do either of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Once you understand how the energy works, and then you can capitalize greatness. That's why you go back to the Platonic solids. They all got something in common with the desire to put it back into the creation flower in order for it to manifest into the 3D. Right? It's frequency.
Indeed. So I started out an amazing show so far. Shout out to everybody in the chat once again. Share this chat with a loved one. We got about 3,700 people in the chat right now. Amazing show so far. I started out talking about Bobby Hemmett. Giving respect to Bobby Hemmett and saying how he said a new species was going to be formed from everything that transpired in America. So if you think about America and you think about who we call the African American man, and so much talk is always focused on them when the Olympics come around and we see the Black Americans dominate the Olympics, track and field, basketball, all types of different sports. I want to know if we call the Caucasian the 6 ether beings and we have all these names and they don't have a certain amount of melanin, right? And certain people look at African Americans as not being pure Black people because, our complexion was lighting up throughout the mixing process.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that it seems, or why is it that Bobby's talking about, or why are we seeing those group of people excel being mixed with this group of people who they say are lesser, but we see these group of people being the most influential people in the entire world, where anything that this group of people does, the entire world tries to emulate. No matter what race, color, gender, creed they are, they want to emulate this group of people that went through this whole process in America. So if we were diluted, they some people will say we were diluted, like you dilute something, you make it weaker. It seems like we got stronger during the process, and we're like super people now. Like we think of shit, we do shit, jazz, hip hop, all the shit we have invented. There's over 50,000 patents from African Americans. Half the shit we use in our home is from African Americans during a certain period. So why we got diluted? Why does it seem like we rose even further up if we were supposed to begin diluted and weakened?
That's because Africans in Africa have higher levels of eumelanin in their skin, but they have lower levels of neuromelanin in their blood and in their nervous system. When you look at the so-called Black people in the Americas, our ancestors had the highest count of neuromelanin in their blood cells out of any other group of beings on the earth. So once again, so-called Black Americans have the highest amount of neuromelanin in the blood, but they have a lower amount of eumelanin in the skin, which is the opposite of the Africans. Now, when you talk about what makes somebody have a strong aura, what makes somebody highly innovative, highly intelligent, highly energetic, someone who has a large accumulation of vitality, that is connected to the amount of neuromelanin produced in the blood from the pineal gland. And the people that have the highest concentration of that neuromelanin in the blood are the so-called Black Americans.
That's a fact, because where's your African Michael Jackson? Where's your African Michael Jordan? Where's your African Tupac?
That's right.
All the greats come from this geographical landmass that we call America, that was Atlantis. So
yep.
As far as like our melanin count, our neuromelanin count, which is the brain and central nervous system melanin, we have an influx of melanocytes that taps into a certain intelligence that basically makes us pioneers, basically.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Brother Rich, I love these guys.
Huh? What you say, Rod?
I love these guys.
Get Rod. Close that question out, Rod. Go ahead, Rod.
Okay. So we got to remember that they are telling us stuff in plain sight.
Yeah, come on.
All right. They're giving us the feedback off the reality.
Yes.
You got to go to the names of the epithets that they call America throughout what they call the lodge systems, the churches. America is known as the great melting pot.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The place where you come for bounty, the land of milk and honey.
Mm-hmm.
One drop of blood makes you one of us.
Okay.
So what we're looking at is evolution being controlled from external forces, from the agency of man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You ever hear Bobby talk about the great debauchery?
Yeah.
Okay. And the symbol for the medical field, the caduceus, is also the ancient symbol for DNA.
Mm-hmm.
The great debauchery was tampering with the human genome in the laboratory.
Okay.
This created a condition that was producing birth defects at an alarming rate. Enki gives them the remedy in the Sumerian tablets. The remedy to correct the errors in the genome is to give them the Anunnaki blood.
Mm.
So the royal families of all of the participating families of the Galactic Council sent down people with so-called celestial royal blood to correct the great debauchery. This is what put us in the Pleiadian light lock, the Van Allen belt.
Okay.
The people believe is the firmament.
Right.
But it's part of a conjure network for multiple celestial groups. It's backed up by a Arcturian radiation matrix. This is why they can't get past the Van Allen belt unless they find what's called space windows.
Space. Hold up, Ross. Say unless they find space. What?
Windows. They call them atmospheric windows.
Okay.
So it's like unlocking a combination lock to get on the other side of the Van Allen belt.
Okay.
Basically, like an energy field over the earth that's used as a soul trap, to keep us here.
Right.
That's what people call it, the soul trap. But it's part of the infinity loop when they crash fourth into third, and the infinity loop makes us be in the sacred 8-ball. Where we live in the upside down for a series of cycles, and then we live upright for a series of cycles. So the 8, the figure 8 on its side, but if you close it like this, it'll mirror itself. Right? That was when they collapsed it. It required us to split consciousness. If your consciousness from your dream state is in control of the physical world as it is of your dream, you a problem to the system. Right? And everybody had to leave their celestial forms to come into a human form, use a human avatar, and we all got to work in teams to get out of the condition, flip out the eternity loop,
right?
The infinity loop. We need the alignment of the Maherta at the same time that we're working on the liberation.
Okay.
Right? For the source energy to get the feedback that we working at curing the problem and we was successful. That's why none of the other elders from the past was able to match the Maherta on time.
Okay.
Get it on time this time. So that flips us out of the eternity loop. So then what's the next dimension after the fourth, the fifth? Right? And the fifth dimension is the age of Aquarius, where all things must be made known.
Okay. Let me so let me Rod, you had mentioned you mentioned we have mentioned the Anunnaki a couple of times during this interview, and you mentioned Inky. I want to ask you all about Thoth real quick. A real popular name in the internet streets these days. Thoth. BDell's been talking about the Tahuti energy, Melchizedek, all of that type of energy. Rod Hayes talks about it. RFG talks about this energy. If if they say, like I've heard, they say Thoth in the Emerald Tablets, they said Thoth said he observed civilizations rise and fall. So let's say he observed a 25,000 year cycle. What I want to know is that, because we know the science of dimensions and time and things being different, do you think that it's possible for him to observe a 25,000 year cycle? Maybe it was 100 years where he was at. So when he's saying this and he's writing this, we think he lived 100,000 years, but where he was at when he observed this, him being conscious of his multidimensional nature, it was only 100 years where he was at. So what do you think about a lot of the history we get and a lot of the books we get passed down? The time is completely different from what we perceive. We're perceiving these historical books from a 2024 perspective, when in reality, we're not looking at it from a multidimensional nature. And Thoth looked at this shit rise and fall in 100 years, but it was really 25,000 years Earth time. What's your thoughts on that idea in terms of us studying history from the wrong timeline, or using the wrong time reference point?
So a lot of the wrong information that we operate from was given to us deliberately.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you can control the way a person perceives reality, you can use that control in order to use their manifestation ability to work on the behalf of the reality you want them to create.
Right.
Right? Now you gotta remember, if right now we wasn't in physical form, time wouldn't exist.
Right.
How long have we been calculating time on Earth?
I don't know. Shit.
How long? On a system that was created by Pope Gregory, and every 360 days away from our birthday, we've been saying we're getting 1 year older every 365 days away from our birthday, and that in itself puts ourselves in a daze. DAZE. That's where they come up with the term days. DAYS. You see what I'm saying? It's all an illusion. And then you got the month, MON, dealing with the mana, which means moon, the moon matrix, which is an illusion. You see what I'm saying? It's all, and then you have the days make a week. You see what I'm saying? That's harvesting energy from the body, making you weak, thinking that you're getting older, believing in the illusion of time, the illusion of Maya.
That's a fact.
Look, if you go back, history starts with the first dynasty in Egypt. That's recorded history, and the Sumerians is contemporary with the first dynasty. But nobody's talking about the other kings list that before the first dynasty, where one king lived 100,000 Earth years. Right? Because history starts with the first dynastic period in Egypt. That's because the common practice of history comes out of the temple priest of Tahuti to record the records and knowing that the amnesia was coming. The amnesia is a side effect of the collapsing of the fourth dimension into the third. Because you're seeing two minds together at the same time. You that knocked you silly. You was delirious. But before the first dynasty, right, they not telling you the Sphinx was there almost 8,000 years before the pyramids. But if you use their dating systems, popularized by Sheikh Anta Diop, in what they call carbon dating. They came up with uranium dating, plutonium, all kind of dating systems. Because of the consistent decay of any element can tell you how long that element has been decaying and gives you a rough age of when it was put in its current form.
Mm.
And he also used the technology of horizontal gene transfer, transmuting his consciousness into different bodies, different entities to carry out that intelligence.
They call that soul jumping.
Okay.
What's another name for that, Rob? What you said?
It's called soul jumping. Soul jump from one avatar to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And they
or essence transfer.
Or
yeah.
what you said?
Another word for it is essence transfer.
Essence transfer. Wow, I haven't heard that one. Wow, essence transfer.
That's what they called it in the sarcophagi. That's what the sarcophagi is.
Yo, y'all swear, the three of them, y'all see how we had three different answers all tied in together? Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. What the fuck? Yo, come on, y'all. Yo, this is what I'm talking about. We're connecting the dots here tonight, y'all.
Facts.
We're connecting the dots. Three different angles of light. I'm asking the questions. Come on, like this is fire, y'all. We got
the purpose of communicating with other people is to get to see the problem from somebody else's perspective.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I think BDell just mentioned horizontal gene transfer. That made me think about Judy K. King, the book, The Isis Thesis and Balls of Fire.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that was interesting. Now, like I said, this ain't the ordinary conversation, y'all. There's gonna be you don't know what wild shit gonna be said. You don't know what wild questions gonna be asked, y'all. So I heard people say, "Look, I love this shit. I just don't know what they talk about." They're like, "I love this shit though, but I don't know what the fuck they talking about." Like this is a wild one, y'all. So just your subconscious knows what we talking about. Let me say this. Let me ask this question. Okay, so I mentioned Judy K. King. BDell mentioned horizontal gene transfer. Judy K. King in her book talks about the microbiome in our body and the biological, everything that's happening on a cellular biological level that's going on in our body is also going on in the external world. The external world is almost a reflection of our microbiome. They also called our aura a reflection of our microbiome, a microbiome aura, almost they said. So they said, let's take, for example, because we're talking about sacred geometry, right? Big topic in the community. Let's use baseball. Judy K. King said there's a baseball game going on inside of us with ourselves, where the good guys and the bad guys competing to make it to the what they call that, home plate. What they call that? Where you go?
It's a home plate.
Yeah, so there's a baseball game going on inside of us. So this is why in our minds and why we resonate with baseball so much and popular culture, because inside we know that shit is happening right now, where people are trying to steal bases, they're trying to slide, they're trying to hit home runs, they're throwing fastballs, they're doing all types of shit. So she's saying this is why it resonates with us on a certain level. What I want to ask you is that if we're thinking futuristically and we're a new species, how beneficial would you think? And when we have all these techniques to, like we talked about the Platonic solids, what do y'all think about how beneficial would it be if a baseball game is being played in our microbiome? How beneficial would it be to have a visualization board with a baseball field where the goals in his eyes we want is on the home plate or here or there? Like, should we start using visualization techniques using these popular sports that we think are just barbaric, but they're really cellular biology happening? So let's talk about using, like I said, sports for visualization techniques. How beneficial do you think that would be according to the science and teachings of Judy K. King?
You gotta remember, as above, so below. As within, so without. Right? And C. Freeman Hill did a whole lecture on what he's talking about. Everything in the external world is the reflection of your internal world. All of us is agreeing to converge, collapse the wave into this particular destination, so we all showed up. Collapsing the wave on the four-corner shuffle. right? So now that we got the energy here, we exchanging what brings the energy to the location. We going through a dialogue and we looking at the energy that we experiencing from 4 different positions.
Right.
That means look at this from my angle and tell me what you see. I see the same thing, but the way that I describe it is a little different.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, I got you.
Right. So now we all triangulating in. Now, regular GPS is what you call a 3-point convergence.
Okay.
If you need at least 3 positions in order for you to get an exact address using GPS. Now we got 4 positions tuned in on the exact address of the GPS, Brother Rich.
Yes.
Right. So we focus in the energy. The visualizations is the training tools on how to focus the energy. You use the external object as the training mechanism to focus the mind and can gain control of how the mind uses the faculty.
Right.
You have to develop it and you can perform it. But you can't perform it until it's developed. And that's all of the mind's energy. That's your creative potentialities. It's only going to work according to the self-discipline of the person that's wielding the desired manifestation.
Got you. Facts. And let me just add before RFG or BDell adds on, I asked that question, keeping in mind that I remember if y'all watch the channel on a regular, I talked to Aaron Lyons one time. I used basketball on the regular in my imagination for as far as me asking questions. I imagine myself passing an assist to somebody who's going to score. So I use sports on a regular basis in my imagination to produce my reality. I always imagine myself being an assist man so that BDell, Rod Hazel, whoever could score the basket. So this is why I always say I'm the point guard. I'm the point guard. I'm the point guard of the gods. So just wanted to say that. But go ahead, BDell and RFG. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in order to beat the simulation, you got to treat it like a game.
Yeah.
So that's going to raise up your spiritual economics, and that's going to, raise up the frequency of the law of reciprocity. The energy that you put out has to come right back. So it's not a coincidence that, you basically like this channel, the Madison Square Garden of Consciousness, he's like the head honcho when it comes to that. So he's giving out, assists to where you got different teachers to give out certain edification. So it's not a coincidence that all this stuff is happening. So that's how I look at certain things. I look at as a way of, in order to reverse the polarity of the simulation is to treat it like a game.
Powerful.
Life is a game.
Treat it like a game. Indeed. RFG?
The game of basketball was basically created off of the movement of the stars and the solar systems in the galaxy. So like you have the spherical ball it can symbolize the sun, the moon, or the earth. And then the goal is to move it through the center of the Milky Way, which is personified by the hoop. And it symbolizes being, a thought moving from one realm to the next. You see what I'm saying? Creation, the process of creation and the multiverse. That's what the game of basketball symbolizes. So, when you said that, the correlation between the sport and trying to manifest your goals, like the game of basketball automatically popped up in my head. And the ancient Mayan, their game of basketball was, the Spaniards called it Pitz. So that's Pitz. And that's what it was based off of, like creation throughout the multiverse.
Right. Wow. So, all right, we talked about, a little earlier, we talked about time, right? When we talked about, Rob, what you said?
When you go to use your analogies for basketball to explain what you're performing, right? The analogy goes into when is the first time you ever understood the concept of success that you was trying to reach? You understood it first, either observing basketball or playing basketball. You
observing it and watching somebody win a championship. That like really struck a chord with me. Watch
So
somebody
you
win the
also
championship.
begin to understand how valuable the position of point guard is on the basketball court,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And a good point guard can overcome most obstacles on the basketball court when it comes to getting the right people the ball at the right time,
Mhm.
right? So you using the analogy because that's where you understood that if you play your position, that your
There
victory is assured.
you go, Rod. There you go, Rod. Yeah, they said this deep as fuck. Yeah, I know. I know.
So
Yeah, there you go, Rod.
So you use basketball as a quasi motivator, and your understanding of basketball as a rollout plan. This is how I'm going to make this work.
Right, right.
I'm the point guard. I got to know how to get the ball from the chosen one to be there to ride so we can win this game.
Right.
Mhm.
So you put together the concept of the show. So this is you drawing up the play now. Not only are you playing point guard, but you playing coach on the floor, Isaiah Thomas.
Right, right. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Supposed to ever do it,
Right.
right? But they don't want to acknowledge that because he's too outspoken about. Some of us was already here. What is you talking about?
Yeah.
That's belligerent to the social construct and the narrative that the system want to hold.
Mm.
But you using the basketball analogy to develop a winning formula in order for you to properly execute your plan and maintain your motivation through all 4 quarters of the development.
Mm.
Big Mama House, 4 Corner Shuffle.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to the Vice Lords on the west side of Chicago.
Hey, facts, super facts. Oh man, this is beautiful. I want to ask another question on time, real quick, y'all. Moving forward, being a new species, we've touched on it. I think something important that RFG said was, we're counting our age, and we're saying we're a new age every year, and maybe that's making us age more than what we really are. We could touch on that. But the question I want to ask. Y'all can touch on that, but the question I want to ask before, if y'all decide to touch on that, is that let's say, because we talked about Thoth possibly living in a different dimension, or anybody living in a different dimension where time is different. So let's say moving forward, we know that in terms of our life, if we live to be 60, they say if we sleep 6 hours a day, we done slept 25 years of our life almost. That's a lot of time that we done slept in a sleep realm, that a person who wants to get shit done and build buildings and businesses or civilizations, they ain't trying to sleep that much. They trying to get shit popping. You know what I'm saying? So what I want to ask you is that, is it possible to, let's say, when we go to the dream realm, for us to get 12 hours of sleep, 12 hours of mental rest within 30 minutes, depending on what realm we go to. Let's say we go to a realm where 30 minutes is the equivalent of 12 hours. So can we project our mind and say, listen, I need 15 hours of sleep tonight to be fully charged in the morning, but I'm only going to be technically be asleep for 30 minutes in this realm. Is it possible for us to go to sleep for 30 minutes in this realm and charge our body as if it was asleep for 13 hours, moving forward as a new species in the future, y'all?
That takes us back to the movie The Matrix.
Talk to me, Rod.
Okay. Neo was being instructed by Morpheus, and he went into the Matrix and had a combat session with Morpheus. When he came out, he did like this, and he had blood in his mouth.
Yep.
And Neo was asking Morpheus, how was this possible? And he told Neo, he said, the mind makes it so. The mind is what makes the body experience the reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with the placebo effect. The placebo effect, the body is healed by the agency of the mind under the pretense of being treated by a medication that's actually sugar. That
Okay.
has no bearing on the disorder whatsoever.
Indeed.
Right? So the mind makes the reality experience real, and by subtly telling yourself every year you're a year older, they tell you aging weakens. The counter to that is to convince yourself that every day I get stronger than I was the day before. The mantra is the reversal method that they use to counter the current condition.
It's like programming your avatar to accept its perceived reality. And they did a test study on this with a glass of water. I'm pretty sure a lot of you already heard about it, but they put the headphones on the glass of water and they play different kinds of music. And if it's like chaotic music and low frequency music, the water molecules will be in disarray and they won't be in synchronicity with each other. But if you play like classical music, like jazz, anything more high vibrational, the water molecules will be moving around in perfect synchronicity. And that's just, you know, like he said, the frequency of the words, the vibrations of the words, it manifests into reality, like literally. They did this with plants as well and made plants grow over 100% taller, you know, by inducing positive frequencies into the plant itself. That's why it's so important to, you know, only surround yourself with people that are on the same life path as you and have, you know, shown actions that they're on the same life path as you, you know?
Facts.
Yeah, that's you know, that's very imperative, because considering the fact that, you know, the atmosphere is transducing into an omicron based state, so we got to tap into light language to where we're no longer subjugated by connotative linguistics of the English language. So like I told Brother Rich before, when you start to tap into, you know, other realms of, you know, tonal languages, those octave vibrations have the ability to manipulate that.
Yeah, indeed. So in terms of the age, is that something, because I started out by briefly mentioning us counting our age. Should we stop doing that shit? Is that something that's outdated? You know how voting is like, we're like, all right, that shit is like, come on, y'all, that shit is useless at this point. With who's Trump and Kamala.
The singer Prince, the late singer Prince, he tapped into that form of alchemy that literally stopped his body's aging process. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the reason why they did away with him.
Mm-hmm. What do y'all think? Is that something we should stop doing, y'all? With Ron and BDell? Celebrating them, counting, and I'm 45, I'm 46, I'm 57.
Yeah,
I just say Earth years.
Okay.
I think I'll to celebrate my birthday.
BDell like fuck that.
I just look at it as another day, but you know, it's another way to stay balanced. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't give too much to the material plane.
Indeed. So I was watching before the show, I was watching you know, just coming up with questions, watching several videos, getting ideas. I seen there was an interview Rod Hayes did with the brother Young Elder, and I seen somebody comment under the video, and I'm gonna read it. It says every superhero that was ever created in the comics. This is from Sean Terrence, so let me give him a shout out before he be like, "Yo, you ain't give me a shout out." Shout out to Sean Terrence. He said every superhero that was ever created in the comics has a power source. Their powers came from something. Us original beings, power source is the sun, and creating things, that's where our power comes from. Let me ask you, what is our power source? Because some people say it's the sun. Is it a central sun? Is it Sirius sun? Is it the black sun? There's like 1,000 suns right now. Where is our power source emanating from when we got to plug in, where we could get all that mother effing power and be the best version of ourselves that we could be?
Oh, you can go.
Well, I say that is being drawn from the etheric network of the
Mhm.
dark matter energy of the black sun.
Okay.
Because I did on my latest transmission, I was basically breaking down how the black sun is basically the emulation of Superman. So now when you look at the color spectrum of the three suns of Utu, Apsu, and Shamus, those three suns that's connected to the Sirius star constellation is basically an emulation of the color spectrum of Superman's garments because he draws in the plasma energy. So black absorbs all frequencies of colors. Red sun, blue star, or what you call it, red star Kachina, blue star Kachina. All these energies have the ability to create a tetrahedron, which basically gives it the ability to create time dilation or interface transition within everything in third density. So that means that the more we tap into our power, the more we absorb these energies, the more that we're able to manipulate as far as this fixed position reality that we're living in. So that's why the great majority of all the superheroes, they have the heart chakra was basically in conjunction with the Superman logo. When you're talking about the serpentine energy with the pyramid in it or whatever, it's really just basically talking about the extraction of dark matter energy.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was thinking along the lines, if we're cells of the earth, our power source, our main power source would definitely be the inner sun. Now, whether that is a black hole sun or a red sun or a yellow sun, at this point I'm unaware of, but I know for a fact that it is a mass producer of dark energy, etheric energy, and radiation. And that energy that's coming from the inner sun inside of the earth is literally supposed to be charging our bodies up every day. And at one point on this earth, before the current moon was in our orbit, we didn't have to eat. All we did was just charge our bodies up like batteries and just, keep going.
That's a fact. I remember Rod told me, I think you told me you said Lilith is a black sun. That's Big Mama, right?
Yeah, Lilith it's the moon of Saturn now.
Yeah,
And
okay.
before the Anunnaki wars that blew a chunk of the earth off, then it was the dominant body in the night sky. And you couldn't you seen the silhouette and it kind of looked purple when you look at it, but all of the plants had like fluorescent colors. Just like when you go to the club under the black light, it was something like that in nature under the Lilith moon. They tell it to us in the Hebrew mythology of Lilith rebelling against Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
But remember, Adama means earth. So the Lilith rebelling against the earth was them reiterating the war that separated Lilith from the earth. And now they have to give us Luna to replace her.
Mm-hmm.
Commonly called Eve, Hawa, the tribal mother. Right? So they come in with a different frequency. Under the dark moon Lilith, the women could control their menses. Under Luna, she's going to give them one whether they want it or not every 28 days.
Mm-hmm.
So now she no longer has the control over the cycles of birth. They're controlled by an outside source. And this is what makes the pregnant woman a lunatic. It's the count of the clock of the moon over the menses that's ticking. Her response is biochemical, what they call raging hormones. Right. So the description of the lunatic is somebody who can't control themselves due to some kind of rage going on internally.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is where all of these mythologies come from that's been weaved into modern times as if it doesn't have an ancient reference point. The powerhouse of the biology of this meat suit is the mitochondria. The mitochondrial output is at its highest when a man finds a woman that love him unconditionally, she overcharges, she turn him all the way up and allow him to have higher access to parts of himself he was unaware of prior. And that's why when you fall in love, you act like a lunatic. You do not behave according to your common behavioral patterns from before. You alter now.
Right.
Because the chemistry that comes with turning the mitochondria up allows you to see clearly things you didn't see before. Remember, DNA is crystals.
Mm-hmm.
The crystals is absorbing the different lights according to frequency from the different stars you see in the sky. And this is why everything within us is a reflection of what's going on outside of us. If your mitochondria turn off, you will not have no energy. And that means you're going to eventually wither away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so when you look at the source of mitochondrial energy, it's all coming from a projection that you was tied to called the silver cord in utero.
Mm-hmm.
And the golden cord is when you can activate all four chambers of the brain, and now you will connect back to the Father, the Sun. The Sun is going to send in UV rays that's going to carry codes that's going to alter the DNA according to what the crystals told it. It's going to be filtered from the earth and fed back by the collective of human resonance. And then the sun going to answer the earth with another solar flare. Right? But when these human resonance alter weather patterns because of energy frequencies going through atmosphere.
Right.
Right? So then you see it play out in the 3D world as storms.
Makes sense.
So now you still getting the same data through the silver cord as long as you connected to the mitochondrial power source. You always connected to your mama.
No facts, Rod. Rod, you mentioned love. I want to talk to y'all real quick. I did a show with a gentleman named Robert Edward Grant, and I showed him a study. There's a study going on the internet right now, and it talks about how there's machines that can measure human emotions leaving the body, and the power of the amplitude or the power of the emotion leaving the body. And surprisingly, there's so much talk in the spiritual community about the power of love, and the universe is made of love. Surprisingly, through this study, the emotion that was more powerful than love was authenticity. So what I want to ask you is, what would be your advice on, and Rod mentioned earlier, we each have a different frequency. I forgot what I asked, but Rod started talking about we each have a different frequency. That meaning we all each are different. We each have something authentic, unique about us. What would be your advice, all of y'all, for the people of enhancing their individual frequency of authenticity so that they could tap into this most powerful emotion according to the study in the world?
Well, one thing you got to understand is that the heart in itself is a fractal interstellar vortex portal. Meaning that when you're doing something that you love out of authenticity, that's when you're able to tap into your true authenticity. So like if your heart is in your if you have your heart and your passion into something, researching, studying, playing basketball, whatever, a lot of times you have the ability to basically manipulate timelines to where basically time collapses itself. So in order to to tap into that energy of authenticity, you got to find yourself. You got to go through a process of self-realization, meaning that you got to do your own shadow work. So that's just my perspective on that.
Okay.
Authenticity. Authenticity being of a higher frequency of love. I think in a way, authenticity can be considered love. Because if we love ourselves, we're going to be 100% authentic with ourselves. If we love somebody else, we're going to be 100% authentic with them.
Rod, you want to close it out?
So you got something called the true self, and you got something called the false self, commonly called the ego. The love energy is required to get to the true self. And the stuff that makes your heart happy is the stuff that focuses that frequency that you are calling authenticity. And it comes from opening the heart with the energy frequency of the love. Because now you get to see yourself for the first time for who you truly are.
Right.
It's the culmination of the shadow work, the getting rid of all of the negative traits. Right? And as you do that, that's called the purification of the ego. Once the ego has been purified, the authentic self can then operate the avatar authentically.
Right.
That means that you now, everything you do is coming from what they call the true place.
Right.
Felt conversation, straight from the heart.
Right.
A whole different brain than the one in your head. Right? You got three major brains: the brain, the heart, and the intestine.
That's right.
Rod, I like to use real life examples because that shit, it hit hard for us. So we're learning, and I'm asking these questions, and y'all giving these brilliant answers. But if I can ask a certain question, and that should have hit. So let me ask a question. All right, Rod, we know Rod Hayes is unique. Everybody is unique. BDell's unique. RFG is unique. Rod Hayes is unique. Every single interview, Rod Hayes is lighting a spliff. He's the chief. Rod Hayes is the chief. He's chiefing every show. Rod Hayes is chiefing the whole show. Now let me give you a real scenario, Rod Hayes. Let's say that's the authentic Rod. He had the light right now. Rod Hayes had the light one right now. So let me give you a real life example of this. How does shit go down in this realm outside of this? Let's say Rod Hayes is a part of an organization. You reference, let's say, somebody you admire, you look up to, Malachi Z. York. Now, Malachi Z. York say, Rod Hayes, I don't want you chiefing while you speaking. Now, the chiefing takes away from who you are. Rod Hayes, do you follow the man who you look up to in the organization you are part of and stop chiefing? Or do you decide to go on your own, chief, to be your authentic self? This is the shit we are faced with outside of studying and reading shit in a book. Real life example, Rod Hayes, what are you going to do, my brother?
Well, I'm going to be still chiefing. And the reason why is...
Even if you kicked out the organization.
Look, the reason why is the organization not going to kick me out because I'll leave first. Okay. Because I don't be disrespectful to the organization I'm part of.
Okay.
Right? As being in growth and development, we ain't told we can't smoke. That's not part of our doctrine.
Okay.
Right? But it gives the allowance for the tobacco chief to express himself openly. Right? You got a lot of people in the conscious community. Oh, these girls wearing weed. You invented it. You invented it. The first people to wear wigs was us. We invented it. So naturally, if they're being naturally following what's in their DNA code, they will be attracted to it in order to do what the elders created it for.
Right.
To alter the appearance, because you don't want to always look the same all the time. Right. In olden times, that was called shape-shifting.
Deep, bro.
Right. They call it in modern times master of disguise. But nevertheless, the royal families did it. They done it to entertain and to put some pomp and glory to their positions of authority. Right? So you got different expressions of the self from the true self that you just don't alter because it takes away from the genuine character of the person, right? This wouldn't the 5%er, Class 13X, when he left, one of his contentions with the nation is that y'all rules is too strict.
Right.
What about the tobacco chief? They not finna follow the no smoking rule.
Right. You're right.
Because
Yeah.
it's in their nature as a tobacco chief, in order to use the nicotine to facilitate higher thought, to smoke. In order to use THC, in order to consciously connect with other realms of information, it's in the DNA. They gotta blow the herbs,
Okay. Okay.
right? The
Indeed.
rosters say the man that blow the herb is thinking with the mind of God.
Right.
So you can draw from either side of the family tree, whatever help you be your true self the best, and you can acknowledge that.
Mm.
And everybody don't supposed to agree all the time on everything.
Indeed. Indeed.
As soon as that happens, then we ain't going nowhere. We on a treadmill running to one spot.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Oh yeah. Now I had to ask, like I said, I gotta ask real life examples with this scientific information so that the people, it could really hit hard with the people. Let me ask you this. So, all right. One of the things we talking about sacred geometry, and a lot of, you know, a popular topic is UFOs, or there's a UAPs that I think is a new term, and all this stuff. They say there's ships floating across states right now. One thing that's mentioned when you mention UFOs is crop circles. Now I always hear about black people invented this. Black people was the first to do. I always hear about the black man, the black man, the black man, the black man. What's the history, y'all? Somebody got it. Is there a history between crop circles and black people? Like what the fuck? Like this? Like I've never heard of ancient history between this black man discovered this crop circle, or this black man did. Like what's up with crop circles and black people? I never hear them in the same sentence together. Please talk to me about, because that's some amazing sacred geometry. I don't know if it's real or fake, but please talk to me about crop circles and black people. What's the deal, y'all?
Crop circles are basically cosmic hieroglyphics.
Okay.
That's all it is. It's another way to basically imprint sigils and messages basically connected to Earth. It's really like warning signals. That's all it is. That's my perspective when it comes to crop circles.
Okay.
Cornrows or braids in African American or African people's hair is a form of a crop circle. Back in the slavery,
I never heard that one. Yeah. Oh shit!
Back in the slavery days, we used to give each other escape routes with certain designs and certain symbols and sigils that we would put in the cornrows in our friend's hair. Damn. So like, oh yeah, it's deep, man. It's deep. And the crop circles that come from the UFOs obviously is their message that they want to relate to humanity. But you know, we picked up on that over time. And one of the, you know, we had the crop circles that we carved into our skin, which are tattoos, and then we put the same designs in our hair.
Mm. Right, close that out, man. Crop circles and black people. Is there a connection? I never hear them in the same sentence, Rod. This is brilliant. RFG, thank you. BDell, thank you. Go ahead, Rod.
Everywhere we have some stuff called petroglyphs.
Mm-hmm.
These are writings on flower pots, writings on walls and caves, on sides of mountains. Everywhere we ever been, you have these symbols written by ancients. You can go in Arizona right now, and there's walls and walls of writings, and many of them are the same symbols that's in crop circles.
Okay.
So it's a higher consciousness trying to communicate with people on Earth that has developed itself to a consciousness high enough to read the physics, so that they can translate the symbols for the people to know what we being told. Right? So it is a connection, but remember, the crop circle is fairly new phenomenon to most of the world. So we were not going to relate it to the fact that it matched ancient symbols and ancient pottery of us around the world.
Mm-hmm.
The original earthborn. We have the Dogon. Many of the symbols of the crop circles can be found in some of their stuff.
Mm.
And they all telling messages, but we don't remember symbolism. And we think that the written word is the way that we was communicating before we start writing. Make it make sense.
Mm.
Interesting.
So I've heard Rod say that I guess the DNA. I told y'all about this video I seen you on, and it was a YouTube short. But you dropped so much shit within that short, Rod. Shout out to Young Elder. I think Rod said that the DNA upgrades is coming via sound. Did you say it's coming through sound?
Through energy, through the UV waves. The
Yeah.
frequency. This human resonance is what is going to be carried on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The women going to experience it first.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mitochondria during the early days of gestation is also examining the DNA for all defects,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So while the DNA, the mitochondria is mainly scanning the Y chromosome because it's the newest chromosome in the human genome.
Right.
Yep.
So it still had to go through a refinement and development phase. Just go back to what you was talking about, Bobby Hemmett saying we're going to be a different species.
Yeah.
Because all of the information that the collective of all women collected on their mitochondrial network is fed back to the earth, which feeds it to the sun, which corrects the DNA through the crystals.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The sun tell the earth to tune in to this frequency, this modulation, this amplitude, and then send the blast out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the human resonance blast is the earth's response to what the sun said do. The women then genetically begin to alter the genome. In other words, rewrite the human genome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right? This is why they are the creator gods, the master mason, because it's through the genetic being developed that you can find perfection in the organism in order for the higher self to have a more operational mechanical mechanism in the 3D to express itself.
Mm-hmm.
So this side effect, what it looked like is in the 1960s basketball, they can't do what they do now. Genetics are being upgraded based off the collective consciousness and the genetic need to correct the error, because too many basketball players from back then, if they do the stuff these players do, would be injured. So the body has to adjust, and somebody got to tell it to. So when all this stuff happens, the DNA changes, it changes the species of the human. A whole new genetic stock.
How important is, in terms of the DNA upgrade and who we are and us becoming a new species, how important is, I want to talk to you about singers. And the reason I want to talk to you about singers is because everything is sound. The universe was created with sound. I just asked about sound. We know about cymatics. And something interesting, my son actually, he obviously every kid for whatever reason resonates with Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is so timeless. Every kid resonates with Michael Jackson music when they hear it or see his videos or whatever. But my son actually he heard a song, a R. Kelly song on the radio. My son was like, "Yo, what's that? I want to hear more of that." I'm like, "Damn, should I play more R. Kelly shit for him and tell him like yo?" Because R. Kelly was one of the baddest motherfuckers we had in the last 30 years.
Right.
But he got caught up in the human shit. I want to talk about singers and how important they are to what we call Galactic Ascension. There's so many names for it, whatever we want to call it. The upgrade, DNA upgrade, because we see what's going on with Diddy. Now, Diddy's not technically a singer, but he had a huge influence over the music industry. How important are singers to what we're talking about, this whole show, what we're talking about right now, with us becoming a new species? And the reason why I ask that is because we're a musical people. We're the rhythm nation of the planet. Children learn through song. So talk to me about the importance of singers moving into this new paradigm shift that we're undergoing.
Well, especially like R&B music, it helps you tap into the love frequency. So that's why you don't see much of a propagation of R&B nowadays. Everything is pretty much, hip hop. But, in order to tap into that love frequency, that is connected to your authenticity. Like I tell people all the time, like a lot of times when I work out, I don't just work out to hip hop music. I work out to R&B music. Sometimes, like I say, you gotta tap into that love energy, and in order to reach the apex of your higher self, sometimes you just gotta, try different things or whatever. But as far as like the octave vibration of R&B music or whatever, it has an ethereal energy. You ever heard of the children of Zimbabwe when they said that they had a visit from extraterrestrial species or whatever?
Yeah.
They said that when they heard the spaceships or whatever, it had like a ethereal, it had like a flute noise to it. So a lot of times singers, they have that same vibration because our octave vibrations, it travels on Etherian oscillating signals, basically. So that's just my take on that.
Deep, BDell. Okay.
Yep. Music is like the foundation, one of the base foundations of culture. And before gangster rap was put to the forefront in like the late 80s, early 90s, our people were break dancers, were pure innovators. You know what I'm saying? Like major artists, like the biggest innovators in the world. And hip hop was needed for so many different genres, for so many different avenues of life. But I feel like what hip hop has become in the past 15 plus years, I feel that our music is actually devolving more than it's actually evolving.
Yeah. No, definitely. I just heard Lil Durk got locked up, man. I was like, damn, man, it hurt me in the head. Like I was rooting for that young brother. I just heard, Lil Durk got locked up, and I think conspiracy. What he got locked up for, y'all? Conspiracy or murder or something like that?
Something along those lines. I didn't look into it. Somebody just sent me the message on Instagram.
Yeah, man. But it's a shame that so many of our artists get caught up in the system, or they get caught up in the bullshit within the industry, So, it is what it is.
Remember the Pied Piper?
Yes.
Music is it's a heart language.
It's a what? Say that again, Rod. It's a what?
It's a heart language.
Heart language. Music, yes.
Yeah.
Like
and
I said.
if you go back to, they call us the salt of the earth in the Bible. What do salt do when you cook with it? It balances out all of the flavors in the food.
Yeah.
Music is the baseline or the theme music to life. When the theme music gets stale, they come out with a new soundtrack. Right? You could start with Scott Joplin and work your way through the different genres of jazz alone, and you can see how many branches it sprang off into. Right? The same with the blues. It turned into R&B, rhythm and blues, turned into pop music, soul music, right? And this is always coming from us because we the salt of the earth. Meaning that we have to be tired of the trend in order for it to effectively be changed.
Right.
Rock and roll played out, we created disco. Right? When disco played out, then here come hip hop. right? Now, hip hop come in simultaneously with techno. And some of the early hip hop artists was sampling techno music for certain sounds they needed.
Right, right.
I think Africa Bambaataa was one of the most
Bambaataa,
notorious ones, right?
Bambaataa.
The instrument of music is always to talk to the heart, right?
Mhm.
And anywhere we create a music, that music is going to be coded with messages because of the pattern of the musical layout in the sheet music. If
Okay.
words to the sheet music, they're going to be tapping into specific points of frequency in the subconscious mind. Then later on, as the time develops, you'll be able to extract messages out of the music that's telling you a story. Right? But this is all part of the development of a new culture in the middle of an existing culture.
Yep. I'm just waiting to see what's going to be the new genre after hip hop.
I think it's going to go back into the instrumental realm. You ever seen the movie Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind? In order to tap into the ability to connect and communicate with extraterrestrials, or whatever you want to call them, you had to use the octave vibration of instruments. That's the only way you would be able to connect with those beings on the communication level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was all radio wave frequencies, instrumentals. They even showed that in the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was able to manipulate the language and connect with higher interdimensional entities based upon music frequencies.
Yep. It all started out with different instruments, but you rarely see, the artists now using them. But I think it should get back to that.
Mm-hmm.
A cool side note, NASA, when they trying to communicate with beings from different places, they send Beethoven and Bach.
I heard about that. That's true, Rod. That's true.
Yeah. It's in all their paperwork.
Wow. So you notice the word mentals in there, instrumental for a reason. It's a mental language. Tap into your higher abilities. Because I think if you listen to classical music, I do it to my son. I let classical music play lightly in the background while he sleep because it helps weigh out both hemispheres of the brain.
Right.
Well, they did many studies on that too, Brother Rick, using that classical music and fetal development and plant and all kind of stuff. They use those different musics and it stimulates the synaptic network. Right. So if the synaptic network is just building and it's being stimulated, it's going to build itself thicker, faster, and stronger. Yeah. A lot of baby geniuses now are being born from listening to classical music during gestation.
I'm glad y'all mentioned that. I'm gonna keep that in mind. Y'all know my lady's pregnant, so I'm gonna keep that in mind. BDell, thanks for bringing that up. The classical music, because that's some, you read and study so much. I forgot about that part, the classical music part. So I'm definitely gonna keep that in mind. We gonna get to listen. We about to hit the 2-hour mark. I'm gonna take 3 questions from the chat before we get out here, y'all. I don't want to keep the brothers too long tonight. It's already 11. I appreciate it. It's 11:01. It's the 111. It's the 111. It just happened like that. It's the 111. But I'm gonna get to 3 questions and then we're gonna get out of here. Absolutely magnificent show. We got about 4,300 people in the chat. Wow, 4,300 people in the chat. Shout out to all of y'all. Let's get to 3 questions. Let me see if I got any questions in the super chat before I. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna get to a super chat question. Shout out to the super chat. Appreciate the support. You know what? Because somebody, family, brothers. Before I get to the super chat, tell the family, because somebody asked about supporting y'all. y'all Cash App if they want to show y'all some love on the Cash App or whatever before we get to the 3 questions, y'all. We can start out with RFG, then BDell, then Rod Hayes. If you got a Cash App or whatever, and the family want to show y'all love, let them know how they could do that, y'all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have PayPal, and I just recently created a Cash App like about 2 weeks ago. So if you want to Cash App me, you can send whatever to capital RFG, capital CHOSEN, the number 1. That is capital RFG, capital CHOSEN, 1, the number 1, and as well as PayPal, amoapoxia@gmail.com. So that's AMOAPOKSIA@gmail.com for PayPal donations.
All right, BDell?
It's $Brydell Rice, BRYDELLRICE.
Okay. And Rod?
Mine is $, capital SIK, capital ACE.
All right, I think King Simon's in the chat. If King Simon's in the chat, he'll write it down. Shout out to King Simon if you're in the chat. If you could put that in the chat while we get to a couple of these questions. Let's get to this first super chat. All right, Armani says, Rich and Panel of Kings, do you think they watch you and schedule these bullshit election events like tonight on purpose to try to throw off the energy because they know what's up? Please ask.
The entire electoral process is nothing but an illusion. You only had two presidents out of 46 that tried to like make some form of a significant change, and they were assassinated. So 44 out of 46 presidents, basically did everything that their puppet masters ordered them to do. And there's been no president to change the economic status or the fact that we're looked at as 4th and 5th class citizens in this country. There's been no presidential candidate to change that dynamic, and I don't believe that there ever will be.
That's something the president can't change anyway. He can't do nothing to make people treat people any kind of way. He don't have that jurisdictional authority.
Right.
But the whole political stage show is a distraction. The only reason it's there is so that you don't know that we being dictated to. Right? They attribute the writing of the bills to this senator or that congressman. They ain't wrote jack. They didn't write nothing. Somebody gave it to them and said, "This is your agenda." That's part of the process of being over there. If you realize that it's a political satire and stop participating in it. But as far as them trying to disrupt the energy, they don't schedule it because Brother Rich scheduled the show. They schedule it based off time, day, and stellar alignment. Because that's how they determine how to interrupt the energy. By time, day, and stellar alignment. And if they can control when the energy is disrupted, they can control the outcome of putting the energy back in order.
Indeed. Fire. Somebody is a little upset in the chat, and they keep writing, name one female. Well, I don't know if they're upset, but they keep writing, name one female in the Galactic Council. So go ahead, y'all. What's going on? Are there any females in the Galactic Council? Because
the Lyrans have a council of female advisors to the Galactic Council, and a representative that sits on the Galactic Council that's female. The Arcturians have 2 people sitting on the council, 1 male, 1 female. I'm not going to go through the whole Galactic Council, but there's plenty of women on the Galactic Council.
Okay. All right.
According to the Dogon, the center of the galaxy is female.
Yeah. Yeah, Big Mama controlling everything anyway, so.
And we call her power, and that's why she's on the 13th zodiac seat, dead center in the temple of Dendera.
All right, let's get to another question. Hopefully this person isn't as mad. Are the entities that are pulling up to assist humanity new breeds of humans?
I would call them ancient breeds.
Say that again. Say that again.
I said I would call them ancient breeds.
Okay.
Them bloodlines are not what we have become on Earth now.
Okay.
Remember, they were separated, genetically separated for a long period of time. And what happens, you develop from a lion and a tiger from the same source.
Right.
Fundamentally different cats, but they're compatible with each other sexually.
Okay.
Well, some of the entities, the new breeds, I think I touched on it before when I said that a lot of the Zeta reticular grays, a lot of them, they don't have reproductive organs, so they got to house the bodies of NPCs or people who are operating from a low vibrational state in order to carry out an agenda with the Majestic 12. So that kind of like correlates to everything as far as like breeding a different entities for the next timeline.
Yeah, that's what they were abducting those women and putting fetuses in them to replicate themselves because they can't reproduce on their own.
Facts.
Yeah.
Indeed. All right. Let's get to another.
Those fast apps is wrong.
It's wrong.
If you write them like they wrote there, you're gonna get some different people.
That's not your Cash App, bro?
Only 2 capital letters, the S and the A.
Well, I think it'll still work, even if it ain't Cash.
Yeah,
it'll still work, right?
Yeah, it should.
Yeah, it should still work, right? I'll check on my joint. Let me see. Yeah, Rod, your joint still come up. Rodney Hayes, yeah. It still come up without the capital letters. Yeah. All right. Let's get to another question. What are some spiritual practices to do with a newborn?
You definitely want negative people out of your life, and I don't care who they are. If they're even if it's one of your parents, one of your siblings, one of your cousins, you don't want to be in close proximity with too many, like too much negative frequency.
Yeah.
Well, home births. Black women got to start doing a lot more home births. That from the inception, that disconnect themselves from contract law and things of that nature.
So some of the things you can do with a newborn to help them develop is ritual massages on a daily basis, water massages when you give them a bath. You know, like the feel of the mother's hand or the father's hand while you bathing them, rubbing their body, you galvanize energy, and you make the child feel protected and safe, even in the condition of the water. Right? So you make them less likely to be fearful, more likely to feel secure in who they are as they develop.
Right. Wow.
You do stretching exercises with the newborns. Because this allows their muscles to start activating cartilage and gristle to keep them strong. Those are all physical and spiritual practices. Because when you start exercising the body, you exercise in their spirit.
Exactly. Right.
I heard there was a certain amount of time where if you keep the placenta, if the baby keeps the placenta attached to it for a certain period of time, I heard that was beneficial as well.
That's part of pair binding. where the mother suckle the baby in breast milk, the chemical oxytocin is then triggered. And when the right chemical balance between the mother and baby to tell both of them energetically they secure, the placenta will then get a blast of oxytocin to release it
Okay.
with several other hormones. But they clip the cord, and this is the number one cause of postpartum depression. When they clip the cord, the energy from the placenta tell the mama abort, abort, abort. The baby's aborted.
Damn.
But when you leave it attached until the placenta released, then the energy tells the mother's subconscious it's a healthy, happy baby, and the chemical response that goes back into the placenta once the baby's milk begin to digest tells the mother that the baby is strong. These are all of the information she needs in order to be comfortable with nursing and caring for her child and triggering her mother mode, the highest frequency of woman.
Okay.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, we're gonna do let's see. I think we're gonna do one more question before we get out of here. Shout out to everybody in the chat. First of all, shout out to everybody who's well, somebody asked where's Sister Myra. Sister Myra's chilling. She was just at the gathering. Mistress, she was at the gathering of masses. Were you there or did you see it? She did a magnificent job at the gathering, but she's chilling. Sister Myra's chilling. She's doing great. Let's see. Okay, last question before we get out of here. Let me just make sure. Yeah, we ain't talking about Donald Trump tonight. I don't want to hear about. I don't want to hear about Donald Trump. I hear about him enough. I don't want to hear about him tonight. Not on this show. Not on the show called New Species. I don't want to hear about him on this show. Yeah. But listen, somebody's asking who's behind the ice wall? When are they coming to help? If they are even there. If they even are. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So the ice wall is not what people think. It's just the frozen polar cap, right? But under that, if you go to TikTok and type in Antarctic pride, it'll pull up the people that lived under the ice that the scientists thawed out, and they gonna tell you they took them from Africa. They ain't taken from Africa. They was down there frozen in the ice. And psychically, they told them how to throw them out, which gave them the science of defrosting people from cryostasis.
I was gonna add the etymology of the word Atlantis goes back to the Greek god Atlas, and when you study who the Greek god Atlas was, he was the Titan that was bound in chains and forced to hold up the earth from the bottom of the earth, and so that's his name was literally Atlantis, which was translated to Atlas. So if Atlantis is associated with the location of Antarctica, then that I would assume that that so-called ice wall is actually the frozen continent of ancient Atlantis.
It's a frozen continent because ancient Atlantis was a global empire.
But yeah, I believe the Atlantis or Antarctica was the capital.
They got a whole lot of pyramids down there. They got some ancient laboratories. They found a lot of stuff when they went down there. Adolf Hitler got the map from, if you go back and watch where the Thule Society sent them, they sent them to the Himalayas. And they told him what he was looking for. And he was looking for a map that tells them where everything was and what's currently called Antarctica. And from that map, they launched an expedition to Antarctica, and that was the first contact right contemporary with Admiral Richard E. Byrd. That's what made America sent him down there, because they tracked the German warships going to Antarctica, so they sent Richard Byrd to investigate what they was doing down there.
Right.
Also, beyond the ice wall, you got fifth dimensional resources called anthracite coal, and it has like 300,000 times of terawatts worth of power. Basically, it can power like 300,000 homes for like a whole year. They have like minerals and resources beyond the ice ball in that landmass.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, I talked to Rod and BDell on the phone, and I told y'all I was working on the I'm gonna do some research on the Black Sun documentary. And I want to get y'all on it, and I want to really go into it. My spirit is telling me, I was telling y'all, my spirit is really guiding me to do something based on it or whatever. Why was, just so the people could know, why was Hitler so fascinated with the idea of the Black Sun? Why was he researching it so much? What did he know about it that probably a lot of other people didn't know at that time, or even know right now?
Because that's the most powerful source of energy in the known universe. It goes from dark energy, then to ether energy. Then ether energy produces radiation, and from that radiation we get fire and we get electric forces, and from those electric forces we get magnetism.
But it starts with the Black Sun, you saying?
Oh yeah, it all starts with the dark energy.
The dark energy. Okay.
In the secret society, the Black Sun is in reference to the son of the Black Madonna.
Mm-hmm.
The biblical code. This takes you back to the Boys of Brazil Obama connection.
Mm-hmm.
You don't deep into, but everybody said that Hitler was cloning himself. He wasn't cloning himself. He was cloning Akhenaten.
Who hit? Hold on. See, dig go Rod again. Hold on. Did he go with that shit again?
Yeah.
You couldn't let one show go by without saying some wild shit. Hold on. Rod, you said Rod be saying some wild shit. Rod, I told y'all it was coming tonight. Rod, you said Hitler was cloning Akhenaten?
Yeah, because they believed that Tutankhamun was going to come back as the heir, and they wanted to usurp his jurisdictional authority by cloning and controlling the clone of his father.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem they ran into was Akhenaten's reign and his time at the top was over.
Right.
And he can't reclaim the throne and displace his son.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
So in the holy drama, it would be the equivalent of Horus's rising to the throne. Somebody clone Osiris and say, stop him from rising to the throne. The problem that creates is both Horus and Set both gonna whoop his ass instead of just him dealing with Set.
Right. Damn.
And another thing, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was a part of the cloning process. That's why a lot of the soldiers, a part of that Nazi regime, they used to put a lot of the pig hearts, because the pig heart was connected to the fourth seed of the Canaanite. Basically exchange a pig heart and put it inside of a genetically modified body, basically. Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, this thing get deep, y'all. This thing gets so deep. Oh man, listen. Before we get out of here, man, I want all y'all to leave y'all contact information. I know that people gonna want to reach out to each one of y'all. Let the people know how they can reach out to y'all, and if y'all got anything that y'all want to promote, a product, service, anything like that, y'all.
You can contact me at BDell1014 1014 on YouTube, and that's also my title on Instagram as well.
You can contact me on Instagram, RFG _ chosen one, the number one. That's RFG _ the chosen one, the number one. Also patreon.com /RFG _ chosen one, the number one.
Indeed.
Y'all can find me on Instagram at the 6'8". I take messages on Instagram and Facebook under Rod Hayes.
All right. Once again, listen, Rod, RFG, BDell, I want to thank y'all. We got about 4,000 people in the chat. It was popping the entire 2 hours. I mean, high energy, high intensity, electricity flowing. Like BDell said, it was like Madison Square Garden, and Jordan was playing. You know, the Chicago Bulls was in Madison Square Garden playing the Knicks, John Starks and all of them. So it was amazing, man. So I want to thank y'all. I had a great time tonight. And you know, this shit is real, y'all. This shit is real, family. We are literally transforming it to something new, something amazing. And I just hope and wish that y'all take the messages that these brothers said tonight serious, because some serious things are happening. And I do mean serious, spelled SIRIUS, like the star. With that being said, I'm going to see y'all. Rod, BDell, RFG. Have a good night, brothers. Peace, y'all.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is Dr. B Serious, here to inform you that we're offering The Body Never Lies, Class 2, October 26th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This class is going to explore how to use personal kinesiology to help you refine and define your decisions and bring out the best in you. Learn the science of asking and the language of liberation. You see, language can be your liberator or your lockdown. How you ask a question and how you feel and how you vibrate and in the level of frequency that you are in or on has a lot to do with your outcomes. So what we're going to do is cut to the chase and give you the cheat codes on how to make the best choice for you. Personal kinesiology is the science of asking and receiving a definite yes or no to help you achieve your goals. It's time. Let's go. I'll see you there.